From Silicon Valley's youngest billionaire to a convicted fraudist, how did Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos go from revolutionizing healthcare to becoming one of the biggest scandals in tech history? Let's find out. Part 1. The vision. Elizabeth Holmes dropped out of Stanford at just 19 years old with a bold vision to revolutionize healthcare. She claimed her company, Theranos at the time, could run hundreds of medical tests with just a single drop of blood. No needles, no waiting weeks for results, just simple, accessible healthcare for everyone. It sounded like a science fiction movie, and Silicon Valley was ready to enter into the Blade Runner world. Holmes had charisma, a unique persona, and an uncanny ability to convince people, which was extremely rare at the time. She deepened her voice, modeled her image after Steve Jobs with her iconic black turtleneck, and carefully crafted her identity as a bold young visionary that would change the world as a whole. Investors lined up and media outlets were convinced at calling her the future of Silicon Valley at the time. Walgreens even partnered with her to put Theranos' devices in stores all across America. Chapter 2. The Rise. By the mid-2010s, Theranos had raised over $700 million in funding, and Holmes was celebrated on the covers of Fortune, Forbes, and Time. She was praised as the youngest self-made female billionaire and became a symbol of female empowerment in the tech industry. Her boardroom was stacked with several political heavyweights, including former US Secretaries of State, generals, and top CEOs. With such an all-star lineup backing her, Theranos seemed untouchable. At its peak, Theranos was valued at $9 billion, with Holmes alone worth over $4.5 billion on paper. She rubbed shoulders with world leaders, gave TED Talks, and secured partnerships that could have transformed the healthcare sector and healthcare access across the country. To the outside world, Theranos was a golden empire, but within Theranos, the cracks were starting to form. Chapter 3. The Deception. The reality was far from the dream. Theranos' devices were incapable of running hundreds of tests as they promised. In fact, the machines would often fail to produce accurate results. But instead of admitting flaws, Holmes and a COO, Ramesh Sani, doubled down on the secrecy and deception. Employees began to notice the truth. The results and tests weren't being run on typical Theranos devices at all. Actually, they were run on standard lab machinery bought from other companies. The revolutionary technology that was supposed to change the world simply didn't exist. And to maintain the illusion, Holmes and Sani created a toxic work culture where employees were isolated from each other, forbidden to share information, and threatened with lawsuits if they spoke out. Whistleblowers faced intimidation, and workers were fired for questioning the technology. The atmosphere was one of control, fear, and silence. And while the deception was taking place behind closed doors, real-life patients were struggling with inaccurate test results. People were misdiagnosed, given false positives for diseases, or falsely told they were healthy when they weren't. Lives were at risk, and all while Holmes continued to smile on magazine covers and promise a healthcare revolution. Chapter 4. The Exposure. In 2015, Wall Street Journal reporter John Carey began investigating Theranos after whispers of wrongdoings reached him. Whistleblowers, including former employees, finally came forward. Slowly, the carefully constructed facade of Theranos began to crumble. Articles exposed that Theranos' technology didn't work. Regulators started investigating. Investors realized they had been misled. And in 2016, the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services banned Holmes from owning or operating a lab for 2 years. Walgreens quickly found out about this, their biggest investor, and cut ties immediately, while all the lawsuits piled up and confidence evaporated entirely. In 2018, Theranos was in ruins, and what had once been Silicon Valley's most promising unicorn had now become its most infamous fraud. Elizabeth Holmes, once celebrated as a genius, was facing federal charges of wire fraud and conspiracy. Chapter 4: The Fall. In 2022, Elizabeth Holmes was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. She was sentenced to more than 11 years in prison. And Ramesh Sani also faced a trial and was sentenced to nearly 13 years. The empire they built on lies had finally collapsed. Holmes' image as a trailblazing innovator had been shattered and instead became a symbol for hype culture and unchecked ambition. The same media that once hailed her as the next Steve Jobs now portrayed her as one of the biggest con artists in the modern business history. Chapter 6: The Lesson. The story of Elizabeth Holmes is not about just one woman or one failed company. It's about the system that enabled her. Silicon Valley thrives on big visions and bold claims, and also rapid growth. However, investors often fund dreams before demanding proof. And when hype replaces accountability, the consequences can be devastating. Theranos is a stark reminder of the dangers of charismatic founders and the blind trust that has enabled them, and also the harm that can come with sacrificing accountability and truth for ambition. In the rush to innovate, transparency and integrity matter more than ever. And cutting corners in healthcare doesn't just break trust, but it endangers lives as a result. So, in conclusion, Elizabeth Holmes once stood as the face of innovation and disruption, but today she stands as a warning. A reminder that behind the shiny image, behind the billion-dollar valuations, lie the responsibility to be honest. Because in the end, technology can change the world, but only if it works, and only if it's real. The purpose of this video is to inspire the future tech entrepreneurs by providing them with the necessary information and know-how on how to make their dreams and aspirations come true. Stay tuned for the next series of videos. Thank you.